right, welcome everyone. It is 5 o'clock and I'm going to call to order our board workshop, declaration of a quorum. We have 7 members present. Thank you for being here. We have no hearing of citizens signed up for this meeting, so we're going to move to our workshop session on receiving our construction update. Mr. Simak.
Yes, ma'am. President Ege, Dr. Harkrider, members of the board, thank you for your time this evening. We've got a few things going on around the school district, have for about the last 18 months. You may have noticed as you drive around town. So we're going to give you an update on some timelines this summer and on when you can expect to see some of these projects completely finished. So without further ado, again, appreciate your time this evening. We'll be talking about, obviously, the addition to A&M Consolidated High School and Phase 4 of the remodel that will take place as soon as the students leave the building on Friday. College Station High School, Rock Prairie Elementary, CTE Phase II, which I'm really excited about, and the stadium improvements that are ongoing at both of our comprehensive high schools. So with A&M Consolidated High School, you may recall that we approved the guaranteed maximum price in the March of 2025 and started construction there, mobilized in April of 2025. Our contractor is Durotech. We are 96% done with the addition. I'll be able to show you some pictures of that. That's what you see here on the west side of the building as you drive past. That's the old bus lane and things of that nature. And so really excited about how well that progress is, how far that project has progressed. I will tell you that we still have a lot of work to do on the interior of the building this summer, and we have a very aggressive 65-day plan that we will use to try to execute and try to be out of the building before the teachers get back in August. Now, that's the best made plans. We'll see how that works out for us, but we have a lot to do. With that, so in the new rooms, you've got 16 new additional science labs, 4 special services rooms, a new weight room for the auxiliary staff, or for the auxiliary athletic programs across the street, and then a new film room. This summer, we'll be working with the Black Box Theater, which we've already pretty much, we're about 70% done there. We've been working on that throughout the school year. We'll be breaking down some walls and creating a new cheer room, which will allow for Consolidated to have a cheer room and a dance room, make it equitable to what College Station High School has. And then Phase 4, we've already gotten in and torn up and demoed the band hall. We'll be working in the fine arts wings. We'll be working in CTE. We'll be working in the cafeteria. We will be working in the kitchen, and we'll be working in the gyms as well, and some of the athletic locker rooms. So we have a lot to do this summer, but we're really pleased with the progress that we've made thus far. This is a great aerial shot of the building. Thank you, Ezra, for this picture. It's a great drone shot. This will be the bus lane that you see there in front of you, but that's your new addition. And then on top of that, you can see the brand new roof that we've worked very hard to get done, that we started around the same time that we began this project in April of 2025. It looks great. We're still punch listing some items on the roof and things of that nature, but as far as the addition goes, we're in really good shape. We've actually got a punch walk scheduled for next week. And so this is one of the new science labs that you can see. We've already started moving in lab tables, and we really are just working on the fine details as we work through this. And a reminder, this is one of 16 additional science labs on both the first level and the second level that are now available to the A&M Consolidated Science Department. This is one of the new special education classrooms. And what you'll see here, there's 4 of these classrooms, but these classrooms are all intertwined and they're all connected. And so that first door, when you come in from the hallway, is a restroom that is connected to the classroom next door. It has a shower. It has a track system that allows them to be able to move students, and they'll be able to help them lift students on the changing tables that might be a little bit bigger than what they can handle. You've got a storage closet, and then this nearest door to the edge of the picture is a kitchenette that has enough room in it for them. It was a very specific request that they be able to put a dining room table in there so they can work on those types of things at the table with the kids. And so we're very excited for how that looks and how it turns out. I guess about a week ago, I met Gwen's leadership team and her department chairs after school hours, and we walked through it, and there was a lot of excitement. And so we're very excited to see what that looks like for them moving forward. This is a view coming in from the north end of the hallway on the first floor, looking all the way down back towards what would be the auditorium and things going into the cafeteria. So this matches the existing building. You'll see there we've got ram board down because we've got the floors done. We really are just working on some of the minor details. Over the summer, we'll have graphics going in. We've got to do some wayfinding. You can see the paper wayfinding on the wall there. So there's just a lot to do. And then we'll demobilize out of the parking lot with the job trailer and everything that we have for our laydown yard. Our plan is to demobilize on July the 20th. And so that will give us plenty of time to get out of the way. We're probably going to need to get some work done painting the parking lots. We may not be able to get that done before school starts. We may have to do it on weekends over the start of the school year. But when we move out, that'll be 96 parking spaces that go back available to the campus. And so that'll be really big and really helpful for the campus. College Station High School, our contractor is Jamala. We, again, guaranteed maximum price was approved in March of 2025. We did not start this project until May of 2025. On November the 19th of 2024, I reported to the board that our estimated completion date would be December of 2026. We've been very aggressive with this timeline. We started, instead of initially doing it in phases, we did all 4 phases at once. And so in a minute, I'm going to show you a picture that shows you just the amount of scope of work that we have ongoing on this campus. It's a lot being added to that campus. It's 100,000 square feet. I'm very excited to report to you today that Area A and Area B, which are the academic wings, we have scheduled CO walks, which are certificate of occupancy walks, for the start of August, which means that if everything goes to plan, we will be able to move into those academic wings before the school year starts. Now, they very well may be moving in during that week of in-service, but we will have them ready full 4 or 5 months ahead of when we thought we might be able to get them ready. Area D and Area G, which is the Fine Arts wing and the new gym addition, and those will be ready about mid-September. So we've been working at this 6 days a week, pretty much nonstop since this project got started, trying to make sure that we could deliver this as early as possible, because we wanted to make sure that we had this for an entire school year and we weren't trying to move in middle of the semester. We focus on the academic wings, and that's one of the reasons why you see those coming available first in August, and not the gym and not the fine art space. Now, we've got plans with them. We've been working closely with athletics, with Mr. Eakes, Mr. Grimes, and we feel really good about the things that we've got ongoing on that campus. And so this is a great shot of just how much we've got taking place on that campus. So you can see all 4 additions coming off all 4 ends of the building. Like I said, it's a little bit over 100,000 square feet. One of the things I really love about this picture is you can also see all the other work from bond packages that's ongoing in the background, from the softball field and the baseball field. You can see the shine on the new bleachers that's been expanded there on the grandstands. You can see the jumbotron in the background, and then behind the press box there, you can see where we are working to add the additional restrooms that are required for the capacity addition that we had to the stadium. I want to point something out to you on the brick. So here on the left side of your screen, we've bricked the building. We're working on bricking the building. We're going around now, and that'll be an ongoing process. And so right now the brick does not match very well. Okay, it stands out like a sore thumb, and I've had a lot of people comment on it, and I've had a lot of people send me some emails and express some concern, and I understand where they're coming from. I want to assure people that we pulled the exact same submittals as our previous architects with this project when the building opened in 2012. It's the exact same brick color. It's the exact same mortar color. It came from the exact same company. There's a difference, though. One, that's 14 years of weathering on the brick that is sitting next to it. Number 2, we're not done yet. They will go back when this process is finished, when we get all the brick up, and they will acid wash the brick, and they will scrub down all of the mortar. And once that happens, it should lighten up or darken up a little bit and match the existing building. Now, is it ever going to match perfectly? No. Even the new brick across the street at Consolidated, exact same situation, doesn't match perfectly. It's a little bit easier because it's a brown brick versus a red brick. Even the brick at Rock Prairie does not match perfectly, but it's a little bit closer because it's not so red. It's a little bit more of a pink hue to it. I don't know exactly how to describe that color at Rock Prairie, but I want to assure everybody that this is the exact same brick, the exact same mortar, from the exact same company. Now, if it doesn't come from the same batch, it's not always going to match identical, but it will look much closer once they acid wash it and clean it up. So just wanted to make sure I pointed that out to everyone, and from where we go from there. And so Area A and Area B are these 2 wings here on the front of the building. Area G is that large wing in the back left corner, and Area D is back there in the right-hand corner. And so with Area D, we were actually able to get in this past week and start demo in the orchestra hall, which will become the new black box theater. We are building a new orchestra wing with the new addition. We're also adding a new ensemble room for band and a loading bay for all of the fine arts programs, where they'll actually be able to back their 18-wheeler up to it and have a much easier time loading from there. With Area A and B, when those 2 wings are done in August, that will be an additional 18 classrooms, 9 labs, 5 CTE rooms, and 1 art room that are available to the campus. It's really significant because you can see in the background of this picture, you have 6 portable buildings. Those 6 portable buildings house 12 teachers. Those 12 teachers will be moving into the building. Students will no longer have to walk out of the building to go to class in the portables, which leaves us in the procurement, or in the situation where we've got to now figure out when we're going to auction off those portables. We're not going to be in the business of keeping portables just to keep portables. They will go. So that will also open up between 43 to 45 parking spaces in that lot. That'll be readily available for the staff on that campus, which will be big in helping them. And also it'll be a benefit to the Cougar Club that'll be able to sell those spaces during football season as well. So a lot going on at College Station High School. I'm very excited about the progress, and very excited that we are trending months ahead and that we're going to be able to get them into the building to experience the new addition for a full year versus having to wait until semester. This is one of your classrooms on level 1. You will see that is all your built-ins that are getting ready to be, they actually started installing those today. And so we're making great progress there. That's area A on level 1. These are the restrooms where you can see that we're making great progress. We'll be starting floors here in the next week or two. A lot of this just has to do with we've got to make sure that we get the building climatized just right. And so that way the floors are ready to be laid down. And then the third gym, you can see we made a lot of great progress here. And one of the things I want to point out is this now provides College Station High School with a third gym. It provides them with the opportunity to have 5 volleyball courts, which is the exact same opportunity that they have at A&M Consolidated High School. So we're equitable across the board. And one of the biggest things that I'm excited about with this gym is not necessarily the gym, but what's happening beneath it. It wasn't talked about a whole lot when the bond passed, but College Station High School has an overcrowding problem in their field house as well. And so with this space beneath the gym, we're going to be able to move the baseball program, softball program, cross country and track programs out of the field house into new locker room spaces beneath the third gym, which is going to free up all of that space in the field house across the street. And so it'll be a much needed benefit to the campus as far as more space is concerned. And on top of that, we've been remodeling since semester the additional locker rooms. And so prior to this bond package, all of our varsity level sports were not on gym level. They were all in level 0 down beneath the gyms. And so what we've been doing is working to provide locker room spaces for volleyball and boys basketball and girls basketball that are on gym level. So that way their locker room spaces are even with the gyms. And so with this new addition comes the volleyball locker room. We're remodeling the other 2 to accommodate the boys and girls basketball teams. So we're really pleased with how far we've come in that progress in just a short amount of time.
Josh, can I
Sir.
ask a question before
Yes,
we
sir.
move to Rock Prairie? You're shooting for completion of classroom space and science labs at both high schools by July, before school starts, correct?
At Consolidated, I would tell you that we're done with the science
Okay.
labs. At College Station High School, it will be August before we're done.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to discuss the logistics with the principals and helping those teachers that are impacted or having to move or change classrooms right there before school start? Is there a game plan to assist them?
Yes, sir. We'll have Conley Gear will be readily available to help move teachers. We'll have the boxes delivered and things of that nature. College Station High School, this development's been very recent, so that Mr. Grimes and I haven't had as much coordination, but we've had some. At Consolidated across the street, we've actually got plans to start moving some of the science equipment into their lab spaces over the summer.
Okay.
And then we have furniture delivery for A&M Consolidated is actually set to be June 8th. Furniture delivery for College Station High School is set to be between July 1st and July 15th. I've got a moving window there depending on how far along we are. But everything will be coordinated for those people that are within those portables. They'll have to set their classrooms up, but the furniture will be there, and we'll make sure that the boxes get to those classrooms for them and make it as easy as possible so they can get acclimated and then get ready to start in the
Yeah,
school
I
year.
was just asking, I know in the past we had always tried to coordinate and get them boxes so they could pack them.
We've
So
got
as
several
they
boxes out
left,
right now.
they're not anxious about when they return and everything else, and then we just get the boxes to wherever they need to be to unpack.
We
So,
will take care of it all. It'll be just like it's the same system that we've always had in place. George has been delivering boxes, and in the situation with College Station High School is just, we've been working to get here. It's just there's been a lot of unknowns, and so we're really excited that we're even at the opportunity where we were able to schedule CO walks for August. Now, granted, we could get told like we don't pass and we don't get a certificate of occupancy. We don't think we'll get there, but we're going to make sure that we coordinate with our
yeah.
campus
Well,
principals.
my question isn't specific to one campus, it's just in general to support the teachers,
Yes, sir.
whoever's
There'll be
impacted.
those teachers in the portable that have to move into the building. They'll be supported.
Okay, thank you.
So Rock Prairie Elementary, guaranteed maximum price was March of 2025. You may recall that when we did this one, this is Jamal as our contractor, which is the same contract that we have at College Station High School. When we initially did this, we put it together as one guaranteed maximum price, and that was to help the Rock Prairie project. By lumping the Rock Prairie project with College Station High School, we ensured that we got good numbers because a lot of people weren't interested in the Rock Prairie project because they thought it was smaller. By putting it together with College Station High School, we ensured that we got some of the same subs, and it made it more competitive for us. And so, really pleased with how that's turned out. Last summer we got the kindergarten wing done and the gym and the cafeteria space. We've also got the new roof. We've already taken care of all the safety fencing. We've taken care of the new car rider line. There is a lot of work to do this summer. We've got the awning to put out in front of the building. At the same time, we have to remodel the north side of the building. So that is all of your other grade levels. First grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, all of those pods. The front office edition, we opened that up in March. And so you can see it right here, just to the left of the entryway there. That was opened at spring break. The front office staff has moved in. It's been a wonderful addition. I think the campus has very much appreciated it. And when that happened, we were able to demo the old office space over spring break, and we've already started putting it back together. It'll be an additional pre-K classroom, and it will be some additional not classrooms, but office spaces and some storage for them as well. We also got into the library at spring break, and we have already gotten ourselves to where we are bead blasting the floor right now to ensure that we control the moisture, so that way whenever we lay down the floor, it doesn't pill up on us in a year or two from now. But we couldn't be more excited and more appreciative of how much the campus has worked with. All of our campuses have been great to work with. But here's your new office staff, or not new office staff, but your new office addition there at Rock Prairie. It looks wonderful if you haven't seen it in person. Very excited with how great that turned out. The floors and everything else came together really well. And the office staff clearly has a flair for how to decorate things, because that looks a lot better than anything I could have done myself. All of the restrooms have been done. We did these individually throughout the year, one pod at a time, and so we worked around the building, and we're very appreciative of how flexible the campus was with us. So all the restrooms are done, which is a lot of the heavy lifting that has to be done when you're trying to remodel a campus in roughly 65, 75 days, and so we're very pleased to have that taken care of. This is your library at Rock Prairie. Excuse me. And so, like I said, bead blasting the floor right now, preparing to start laying floor down as early as Friday, potentially Saturday. You've already got all your new built-ins in, the new circulation desk and everything else. And so we anticipate having the library buttoned up in about the next week, to where we can move things in there to store them for the summer to be able to work. Because one of the things we're running into at Rock Prairie is a lack of space because of all the things we have to move out of the classrooms. This is the old office, and this is where we have already framed it out and drywalled it and turned it into what will be the pre-K classroom. It may seem like there's still a whole lot to do there, but working within the confines of a school day and everything else, we're very pleased with how far we've come in that, and we'll be able to make a lot of progress this summer, obviously. Substantial completion on this is going to be right up to just a few days before school starts. Our goal is to try to be walking out of there as the teachers are walking in. We'll see how that works out for us. We had a meeting this morning. We meet weekly, and we're always constantly talking about our schedules. CTE Phase II, our general contractor is Pogue. We had a guaranteed maximum price in April of 2025. We started that project in May of 2025. And our estimated completion is mid-July. And I will tell you that we are trending very well, looking like we're going to be able to hit that. And we've got it set up for all of the equipment and furniture to be delivered on July the 15th. And so one of the things I'm most excited about with this project is what it does for us as a school district. We will no longer be sending kids to Bryan, C-Tech. All of our kids will be staying in-house, and we'll be taking care of our own. And at the same time, we've got a multi-purpose arena in this facility that will also allow us to start hosting larger functions. And so instead of having to go to an athletic banquet at Bryan Legends Center, we can start hosting these events in our own facilities, which is one of the things that we prefer to do. So you know it, we've got ag mechanics, animal science, auto tech, construction, cosmetology, multi-purpose arena, and the vet tech lab, as long as welding. And so this project, if you haven't seen it in a while, it has come a really long way. We were pouring the last sidewalk there in front of the building last weekend. These drone shots were taken last Friday. Very pleased, or last Thursday, very pleased with how far we've come in this amount of time. It's an amazing facility. It looks great from the back. There on the bottom left-hand corner is a pole barn. There in the middle on the bottom is the paint booth for the auto mechanics. You can see the 4 bay doors open there for auto mechanics, and so on and so forth. And then this is your multi-purpose arena. It's got 2 classrooms there on the back side of that wall. It's got a bay door that allows it to go for them to bring animals across if they're doing some type of show. It's a lot like the expo center is going to be. We'll be able to drive tractors in and drop down clippings if we need to. We can scoop them out, take them out, keep the building clean, and everything else of that nature. So we're really excited for this space. Like I said, this is an opportunity for us to host large events and large banquets in College Station ISD and not have to have people going to North Bryan to take care of that.
Josh, what's the seating capacity like, if just to get a sense of scope of that space?
So 7,800 square feet is that space. I actually did Chat GPT with Teresa Benden today. Teresa Benden was driving, not me. And so we estimated that you could sit as many as 600 to 800 people if you just did stadium style in a straight line. We're not going to buy that many. We're going to outfit it to have chairs and tables for 250 people. That's about the largest functions that we do for athletic banquets and things of that nature. Obviously, this can be used for whole scale training and things of that as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. This is
What
one of the
could-
cosmetology labs. Yes,
Sorry, I
ma'am.
was going to ask a different question, but I thought of it on the previous picture, or two back, on the fencing around that, because that's changing, that's a difference too. Is the whole place going to be completely enclosed and with a
So we
gate?
will
I
have
remember us
a new
talking.
gate. The new gate's actually all of the masonry has been done for the new gate. We have not installed the new gate yet. We'll wait a little bit and try to get through some more of the construction before we do. It'll have a card reader as well, and so the new gate will have a card reader. So for those people taking care of their animals, it'll be just like the badges that we wear with the RF on the back. They'll be able to badge in. We can also control when people come in because this is a school day, and so people can come in early in the morning. But whenever the school day hits, 8:25 to 4 o'clock or 4:05, they can't come in to feed their animals. And so that'll be able to also give us some control as to when people are coming in and out of the facility. Specifically around the CTE Center, when you get out there and take a tour, you'll see that we've got the same standard safety fencing that we have now across the district, the 6-foot anti-scalable black vinyl coated. But we'll also have card readers on some of the gates that'll control access in and out of that facility as well. Part of that too is because the amount of equipment that we have, and some of that equipment is on the outdoor exposed space, and we don't want anything to walk off. So we're doing everything that we can to secure that as much as possible. This is one of your 3 cosmetology wings, and so making great progress here. That cosmetology is going to be an amazing program. There's a lot that goes into it. We're really pleased with how far along we've come in this amount of time. Feel really confident with everything that's going in there. We fully anticipate in the next week to 2 weeks that this building will be completely climatized and it'll be closed in, and that you won't have to worry about anything on the exterior as well, which allow us to get everything to the temperatures that we need so we can start laying the floors. This is your welding lab. So you can see the large brackets and everything else coming down. That's going to be for your compressor hoses, and then you've got the track system in the ceiling for moving large weight around the building. This is your auto mechanics lab. Very excited with how this has turned out as well. And then stadium improvements. Our local contractor is Jacody. Guaranteed maximum price was May of 2025. We started last June. If you recall, last June had an exorbitant amount of rain. We were trying to do baseball, softball fields. We were trying to get out of the ground on the Fieldhouse Edition. We were trying to get around across the street, and we had more rain in June than I think we've ever had before. And so what I've quickly learned about construction is that you are not really in control. Mother Nature is, and that is still very much the case with our stadium projects. We're making great progress. We're working 6 days a week on most all of these projects. That's certainly the case here with the stadiums. But with this, it's the Fieldhouse expansion at Consolidated. We're increasing the grandstands. We've already done that at College Station High School. We were able to host Little Olympics there in that facility. It went great. The new grandstands look amazing. We're working on new press box at Consol. We're repairing and making some upgrades at the press box for College Station High School. And then you've also got the roof situation. Unfortunately, the press box at College Station High School has leaked since day one, and we're working through that right now, doing new waterproofing, going to be pulling the panels off and doing a lot to ensure that thing does not leak moving forward. And then obviously both of our stadiums have digital scoreboards. We've yet to tie the one in at Consolidated because you can't tie it in anywhere, but we were able to put it on display at College Station High School for Little Olympics. Mr. Dunstan was on the camera. I was up top, and we were getting things figured out. Matt Cole from technology was a big help. And seeing little kids on the big screen and watching their excitement was really cool, and it made all the stress that went with that project very much worth it. So that is your Fieldhouse Edition. That is the new weight room at Consolidated right behind us. What you'll see laying down on the ground over there is a temporary AC unit. And we had to go with the temporary AC unit because HVAC are long lead items, and we knew this going in, and we ordered the HVAC systems that we need. We need 3 specifically for the addition here at Consolidated, and we ordered those right off the bat, and we still do not have all of them. And so we've gone with the temporary system to be able to get that place to so we can start getting it climatized and we can lay our floor down. But on the back side of this is meeting rooms that'll be flexible, and they'll be turned into 3 flexible meeting spaces for the Consol football team. And you can see there through the glass the Jumbotron that's there in the background of the stadium. And so this looks great. We're in a good place with it. We just really need to get those HVAC units in, but we found a temporary solution to be able to work around that so we can continue to progress forward. This is going to be on the first level of the press box where you can see we're framed out. We've got the grandstands arriving on June the 24th, and so before then you'll see a lot of work being done on the front side of the press box to ensure that we get things taken care of so we can clear out of the way, because right now one of the biggest challenges at Consolidated is we're working in a very tight space, and we have boom lifts that are working to get up there, and we can't have those working in the same space as the grandstands. So you'll see a lot happening over the next month with the front of the press box. This is your view from the film deck up top. I wanted to show this. It's These field house, these press boxes are almost identical. This one right now looks a little bit bigger because it doesn't have grandstands in front of it. But the bleachers across, that's the visitor bleachers. Those are brand new. Those are the identical size as what we have at College Station High School. And behind that is this facility that's currently going in, which is also almost the identical size as the visitor restroom facility that's at College Station High School. And so you can see there, we've got the face brick going up. We've got a couple of inspections on upcoming, and then we'll be able to really start to tie that building together on the inside. At College Station High School, this is the interior of the new press box. What I'm showing you here are line of sight windows. Previously, everything ran all the way up, and if you wanted to see anything that was happening on either end of the field at College Station High School, you really had to lean forward, put your head up against the glass almost to be able to see. And so these line of sight windows will help with that. We've also installed some new built-ins there on the shelves in the front. And then we've added these. These are coaching platforms. We've added this in the press box as far as the press room is concerned. We've added this in the coaches area, and we've added this in the hospitality area. And what that does for us is allows you to take better advantage of the space you have. So instead of a lot of wasted space behind the coaches, now they have this platform where they can sit up and still be able to see over the top of the coaches that are there in front of them. This is pretty standard in press boxes across the state, and we're doing this at Consolidated as well. And so a lot to unpack there in a short amount of time. We really feel confident in everything that we've got going on. We feel like we'll be able to get these projects delivered. Obviously, Rock Prairie will be August. Consolidated to be August. We've got the certificate walks or the CO walks scheduled for College Station High School for early August, and we think Area D and G, the Fine Arts Wing and the gym, will be in mid-September. We will certainly coordinate with the people that are there in the portables to ensure that they have the easiest transition into the new edition as possible. And other than that, I am open to any questions.
While you're doing the timeline real quickly, did I miss on the stadiums?
Stadiums is end of August.
Even for, I mean, Consol will be done at the end.
You don't have to look so shocked, but yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Now, thank you for that. I'll be thinking about that at 2 a.m. Obviously, weather has to cooperate. It is excitement. So our substantial completion date is the end of August. Coach Schmidt was great with us, and he worked. He's built in his first couple of games are going to be on the road. But we're in a situation where obviously weather impacts us every single day, and the forecast doesn't look good for the next week. So if you're doing a rain dance, please stop. But we have a very aggressive timeline. Jacody's going to come through for us, and we're going to do everything that we can to make it happen. And so we've got a lot to do, but we have a good timeline. We had a meeting this morning. We meet weekly. We meet on site daily. And if the weather cooperates, we'll be able to hit a lick, and we'll be able to get it done.
First week in September, but the first 3 weeks ended up being on the road. He scheduled the first two non-district games on the road, and then when they drew, the first district games on the road. So we've got a 3-week buffer, so it won't be until week 4 when they play home. I believe that will be the 4th week in September, I believe. Yes, ma'am.
How are we on
But
budget?
through scheduling, you have a 2 or 3 weeks built in just in case.
I've
Yes.
not told my contractor that, but yes, sir.
Okay.
How are we on budget?
Great. We have plenty of contingency left in all of our budgets. Nothing has gone over. We feel really confident that we'll be able to expand the scope of the projects that we're going to be able to do. We've expanded the scope on all of our projects right now. And part of that was the aggressive timeline and getting the guaranteed maximum price. The other part of that was doing all of these projects at once and not having the inflationary costs hit us so hard. But right now we are under everywhere. We have not gone over. We have a lot of contingency left. We're keeping a close eye on it. I do not want to have to answer to Ms. Wilson about spending too much money. And so the fear of the CFO is very real. Did I say that out loud?
I want to compliment the district on the CTE commitment that we've had for many years going on, and now having all the kids not have to go to Bryan and having all the facilities there, because I can't remember the number. I think we have 45 or 50 certificates we offer within the district, certificates and licenses. And AI is not coming for welding. It's not going to replace vet techs. It's not going to replace auto techs. It's not going to. Those are jobs that kids can get right out of high school. Now that we have all these incredible facilities and the commitment we have from the CTE folks to train and equip kids to be successful, I think is outstanding. So having these facilities is great. They look great. And I know that's been a long-term commitment between the bonds and the people we have in place. So I'm personally really grateful and excited for all of the things that we have going on there, but also what that means for the community, that we can give people jobs and they can stay right here.
So one thing I failed to mention is I'll be sending our Dr. Harkart. I'll send out an opportunity for you all to come take tours very soon. Obviously, we're at a lot different place with the Consolidated. We've still got to tie the building in, but we can see the new addition. Mr. Field, if you need to come over and say goodbye to the pit, we can get you in there pretty soon. A lot of people are really emotional about that. I don't quite understand the draw to the pit, but I have been charged up by a lot of Consol folks. Miss Simmon being one of those. So apparently the memories from the late '80s and early '90s are really strong.
2001. Thank you very much.
Well, you and I are. That
let's-
wasn't you and I are 2001. That wasn't a shot at you.
Relax, sir. Relax. All right.
That was a shot next to you, man. That wasn't at you.
All right.
But no, there'll be tour opportunities coming up. We're ready to show you CTE. We can take you to the building at CTE. We can show you some of the action that we've got going on across the street at Consolidated. We'll need to wait a little bit at College Station High School, let a few of the finishes get in. But there'll be opportunities for tours across the summer. So be looking for that from Dr. Harkrider, or I'll put it in transmittal, one or the other.
Well, Mr. Simak just spent like 25 minutes talking about as quickly as he could. And that's how long it took him just to touch on everything that you're doing right now. And it's a really significant amount of work. And I mean, I'm amazed as a parent every time that I drive by one of the sites, which is often, and see the progress. So I just think we should not take for granted what the district personnel and all of our construction workers, everybody has been doing to have these projects get to this point and be almost done. It's really just great.
Well, thank you. Obviously, it's taken a lot of coordination, and we have to extend a special thanks, Miss Elder, Mr. Grimes, Don Newton there at Rock Prairie, both our athletic coaches and everything else, and then obviously working with Kevin Ross and Clink Skills out at CTE. People have been great to work with. Everybody's been very accommodating. Now, at the same time, like, we're doing everything we can to receive orders at 6 a.m. and 6:30 and try to make sure that there's no trucks in the parking lot by 7. And so it's been a work in progress, but everybody's been really flexible, and we know it's been really inconvenient, but I hope everybody knows that we have been working as hard and as fast as we can to deliver these projects on time, under budget, and to get out of people's way so everybody can get back to normal. We want that for everybody. Our kids go to these campuses. We're on these campuses daily, and so it's going to be great when we're all said and done, and we're going to be set up for the future for a really long time. Specifically with the CTE Center and both our comprehensive high schools taking the capacity to 2,700, it really sets us up to be in good shape as a school district.
Yeah, it really is. It is fantastic. So much work that's basically been done in a year, I mean, a little, or 15 months by the time it's done. So yes, kudos to your group. A couple of questions on kind of on the money side, and you've alluded to this, but I think some people look at accelerating all these projects so fast and think, oh, we're working people, 3 a.m. in the morning, Can you explain, how it actually saves a little bit more on how it actually can save us money to be accelerating these projects? And, even though we're having to pay people to work 20 hours a day sometimes.
So the best example I can give you is this. So the guaranteed maximum price, it's locked in. And so with the GMP on all of our projects, our price is not going to go up. So as you well know, that we're currently in the design phase of a new central office. And so when we were at about 25% design phase, the Iran situation had not happened. When we got to the 50% design phase, the Iran situation happened, and all of a sudden fuel costs had gone up 30%, and people were starting to reflect that in the numbers that they were quoting to us for their services. And so inflationary costs can change. That was in a month, 2 month span on how quickly 30% increase on some things just because of a fuel situation. For us with the projects, whenever Dr. Harkrider and I sat down and looked at it and everything else, and Ms. Wilson as well, when you start to look at the formulas and you look at how much inflate, like you could be $2 million in a year on a project like College Station High School, or even more for a project like Consolidated. When you start to think about if you wait and you don't do those projects and you lose $2 million because you sat and you waited on the inflationary costs, no, thank you. In the words of my good buddy, the Red Rocket, like, don't worry about the mule, just load the wagon. Like, we're good. We're working, and we're going to keep working, and we're going to get it done, and we'll sleep when we need to.
And you kind of mentioned other money that's left from these bonds. You mentioned you're going to be under budget, but do you have any kind of, where are we on the dollars a bit more?
Well, I can give you a breakdown for that once we finish these projects. We can certainly come in and close those out, or I can put that information for you in transmittal. I'm not going to quote numbers to you right now, but I will tell you that we're in good enough shape that we feel like there's some things that we'll be able to do on the athletic side of things that weren't called out. At Consolidated, we've been in good enough shape that we're able to make some improvements to the gymnasiums that weren't previously there. And what we'll do is we'll evaluate. Mr. Buckner and I, who is our executive director of facilities, we know there's some things around the district that need to get taken care of. There's some floors that need to be done. There's some restrooms that need to be remodeled. And if that money, whenever that money is there, we'll evaluate and we'll identify what projects need to be done. But we really feel like between all of the bonds that we have, that we'll have the opportunity to expand and do some additional things. One of the things that we're going to have to consider here at A&M Consolidated next door is additional parking. And so we've already kind of scoped out the idea of what we could do potentially to add 56 parking spaces. That's not to say that we're going to get there, but we've got that. Out at CTE, we've looked at the idea of possibly putting a concrete parking lot in front of the ag barn. To tie in with everything else in that facility. And so you've got restrooms that could be done at some of our elementary campuses or some of our intermediate campuses. And so then there's always roof projects. And so you can't go wrong investing in a roof. And so there'll be things that'll be there for us, but the opportunity, the most important thing aside from inflation or whatever the money is the faster we get these projects done, the sooner our voters have the opportunity for their kids to experience these projects. And that's the biggest piece for us right now is delivering for the kids.
And honestly, that was my last comment. It's just a reminder, a thank you to y'all, but also a thank you to the voters who are making these projects happen. But also, as we're going to move into our budget discussion, right, there's just the reminder, this money does come from our local taxpayers, but it's because they support our facilities and our schools, so we really can have the needed spaces and good quality spaces for our teachers and our students. So thanks to them. And we can't use it for other things,
No,
just
ma'am.
what it was, the projects it was dedicated for.
Yes, ma'am.
So, really quickly, I'm curious about the mechanism. Are the bonds like a line of credit? Like, do we have how do you actually receive the money and spend the money?
Yeah, it's basically wired. So you go out and sell bonds. We have one more sale left between the sum, and then the money's wired to us. We invest the money, and then we spend it as we need it.
So we didn't
Pretty
get
much
it.
like it's basically a loan.
Yeah,
per
and
se,
then we
tax
pay
rate.
interest, obviously, on whatever we spend.
Correct.
But just to be clear, if we chose not to spend money we had left over, we'd be paying less interest. Like, because a bond passes, you're not forced to spend every dollar on the
Correct.
bond, correct? Yeah.
Right.
So, we'll want to take that into consideration. There's lots of stuff to do, but also at the same time, we're talking about all the ways we're going to pay the other bills that we have I want to make sure I understand that mechanism.
Yeah, now only anything that you save with bond money can only be spent or not spent.
Correct.
It can't go back into the general fund.
Yes.
To be spent on anything else.
But you don't have to spend every dollar.
Correct.
It's a maximum,
Yeah,
not
we've
a
got to
minimum.
deliver what we promised to our taxpayers.
Correct.
And at that point in time,
Yes.
if there's X amount left over,
Yes.
and that's the board's decision on what projects to move forward.
Okay,
with.
great. I just want to understand how that works. Thank you.
Dr. Harkador, do we have to be careful with, I think it's arbitration at that point if you earn too
Yeah,
much
it
off
goes
the
on a
interest?
certain amount of years. You have to pay back what they call arbitrage if you don't spend that money within X amount of time. But yeah, we're not in jeopardy of that with the escalated timeline. If the timeline got drawn out too far, it'd be more of a problem. But since we've been more escalated, that won't be the issue. It'd just be the next direction that the board would like to go.
But can I follow up on that? Because I think there is a difference, and I'm asking between the money that the bonds we've already, sold and we have in our savings account and we're, using to spend on these projects and yes, paying interest on, and the amount you mentioned, there are some we still have not gone out for, right? So that is a little different.
We've got one more sale left. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simek. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our district math curriculum update.
I could talk fast too. It's a race between me and Josh. Well, good evening, President Iggy, Dr. Harkrider, members of the board. My name is Jennifer Smith, and I'm the coordinator for K-12 mathematics. And this evening, I'd like to share with you about the process that we've used to evaluate and select new instructional materials for K-12 mathematics. The presentation is just basically informational, and no action will be requested at this time. However, during the June 10th special board meeting, we'll be requesting approval for the purchase of the selected materials outlined in tonight's presentation. So, our goal tonight is to recommend our instructional materials to you guys for our adoption, and I will go over three main parts: the context of the task in general terms, and then also our review process as well as our recommendations. So the context of our task will be broken up into two parts. The first part is about just math instruction and College Station ISD, as well as what has changed since the last time we've adopted textbooks. So the math instruction in CSISD, I want to highlight three different parts. The research-based instructional strategies, sometimes known as RBIS or Arby's. It's not the Curly Fries restaurant. The first time I ever heard that, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, what are we talking about? Also the connection to DeForest 4 critical questions, the work that our collaborative teams are doing on each of the campuses and their math departments. And then also sharing with everyone our math vision statement for our district. So let's start with the research-based instructional strategies. These are brought to us by the TEA, and that was brought about as we were coming out of COVID in 2021. The RBIS or Arby's provided equitable opportunities for all students to have access to on grade level instruction, and that's important that all students have access to grade level instruction. They are the high impact teaching moves backed by research that helps students not just get answers, but to understand and apply mathematics. And this will help us to be able to reach all of our students. So for mathematics, there are research-based instructional strategies for English language arts, reading, but I'll obviously focus it on math. So the math research-based instructional strategies are in four pillars: the balance of conceptual and procedural understanding, the depth of key concepts, coherence of key concepts, as well as productive struggle. So the balance of conceptual and procedural calls on math instruction to include opportunities to represent, discuss, and make connections among mathematical ideas in multiple forms. The depth of key concepts calls for concentrated time and effort on the most important topics. Coherence of key concepts calls for math learning to build and spiral concepts within and throughout the year, telling a continuous connected story that math isn't just a file cabinet of isolated facts. It's really about the connectedness between the content and the skills that we're learning at each of our grade levels, as well as across the grade levels. And then the last one may seem bizarre, seeing that it says productive struggle. It doesn't mean that we're going to leave kids in the struggle area, because math is not everyone's favorite. My favorite, but it's not everyone's. And this is really calls us to provide opportunities for students to work collaboratively to solve problems using those different representations, because they may all not attack the problems in the same way, and then also helping them to explain what they're thinking through it. And so making sure that we're giving multiple different ways to solve the problems that are at hand. The next big piece that I want to call out are the four questions that our collaborative teams, each of our teacher teams, are really diving into as they plan for math instruction. And so the first question is, what do we want students to know and be able to do? And we are really focusing in on those essential standards where, as all good math teachers say, every standard is the most important and we need to teach every one of them. And we are teaching all of them, but they all don't have equal importance. And so we have to really dive in and dig in and work through, like, what is the most essential piece that we can guarantee that all of our students are going to be able to be successful for each grade level. Question 2 is really about how are we going to know if they've learned it. So we need to think about the type of assessments that we're using, and assessment doesn't have to always be the ugly, yucky word. It's like, what is the information, what instructional decisions am I going to make as I respond to that data? And so if we have some sort of formative assessment, little intermittent assessments throughout our learning units, like once I get that information back, how am I going to respond with my group of students? It might be different if I'm in a secondary first period to second period, but we need to make sure we're doing that, as well as the summative assessments as a full cycle. Questions 3 and 4 kind of go together. And so as we're planning, we need to be prepared to figure out, like, what are we going to do if our kids are not able to learn it in the time frame that we have, and what kind of systemic timely interventions can we help to support them? But as well as we have very strong kiddos in mathematics that have already mastered some of the material. And so how are we supporting them and differentiating and extending their understanding of mathematics? And so that leads us to this math vision statement. So back in 2023, during August, of one of our district PD days, we talked about in different collaborative teams, it's like, what do we want our math courses to be about? What is our math community going to be? And so taking all their ideas together, we crafted this statement. It says, we aspire to be a mathematics community where students reason and persevere with confidence, apply mathematics to solve problems, and use models to explore real-world situations, equipping them for future academic career and career success. And as I met with our committee of teachers that helped make this recommendation that I will share later, it was important to us all that we are really looking for instructional resources or materials that can really fulfill all of these things. Our research-based instructional strategies, our sits really nicely hand in hand with the work that we're doing in our collaborative teams with our PLCs, and then also helping us fulfill this mission statement, not only for kindergarten, but all the way through, pre-calculus. So also, there's some things that have changed through this process. So back in 2023, we had House Bill 1605 that was put into place, which also connected to the high quality instructional materials, HQIM, and also the Instructional Materials Review and Approval, otherwise known as IMRA. And you can see, like, throughout this presentation, there's so many acronyms, it's a little crazy. So let's talk about House Bill 1605 really quick. It was passed during the 88th Texas Legislature, and it established a few things. It established an expanded process for the State Board of Education to approve high quality instructional materials, and increased the funding for high quality instructional materials, supported parent transparency with instructional materials, created a clear teacher protection guidelines for planning time, and provided new requirements for the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills Review and Revision. What typically has been the catalyst of determining new instructional materials has been the change or revision of our standards, our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. At this point, for mathematics, our standards have not changed, but we've exhausted all of our subscriptions and licenses and all of our connections to our current resources, and so we had to take a look at, like, what resources are available. So with 1605, one of the things that I wanted to make sure to tell our committee of teachers is what is it in a nutshell? And so there's really a lot of pieces. And so what I'm going to highlight are the things that are starred. And so just a reiteration about the first one on the top left, it talks about the expanded process for the State Board of Education to review and approve high quality textbooks and instructional materials. That is supported by the TEA and repeals prior law authorizing TEA instructional materials portal and quality review. So the previous processes are different than what we have done now. This next piece really talks about that additional funding. So I want you to think about 3 buckets of money. So it says on top of the instructional materials and technology allotment, the IMTA, that is a bucket of money that we have been leveraging for many, many years throughout how we're determining our resources, as well as how we're paying for the resources. And we usually get those in a biennium rollouts. With the House Bill 1605, we also have the opportunity to use a bucket of money called the State Board of Education entitlement funds. And those only can be used for the approved materials. And we get $40 per student every single year. And that money is able to roll over from year to year to year. We also have access to $20 in addition to the $40 for our students if we determine the blue bonnet materials are the way we want to go, and that $20 provides the printing, the fees for all the printing costs for those state-owned textbooks. So we could leverage that if that's the road that we go down. The third star on the left, it says the State Board of Education textbook approval no longer is bound to an 8-year cycle, and that's kind of where we've kind of run out of our cycling, and that they're no longer linked to 50% of our TEKs. Now they need to be linked to 100% of our standards. They can go past our standards, but they need to be at least 100%. The last bullet, the last star on the left talks about the publishers must also offer parent portals for instructional materials transparency, so parents can take a look at the materials that their students are using. And the one that I want to highlight on the right-hand side, the star right in the middle, many of our teachers did not realize this, but House Bill 1605 required TEA to develop a state-owned textbook in certain grades and subjects, and they are subject to the approval of the State Board of Education, just like any other textbook, and that is otherwise known as the Bluebonnet materials. So again, one of our acronyms, HQIM. So what makes a high quality instructional material? As mentioned before, 100% alignment to our standards. That's the minimum piece for these materials. We need to make sure they're suitable and appropriate. And so that's basically, we don't have a big issue in mathematics. It's more going to be the things in the English language arts, the science, and the social studies. We also, the materials have gone through a quality review, and I'll share about that in a moment. So the State Board of Education has a committee as well, made up of stakeholders across the state. That could be teachers, parents, administrators, other folks within the field of mathematics or English and such, for all the different content areas that kind of go through that quality rubric piece. The material should not have factual errors, and so again, that's not necessarily a huge issue in the math world. We want to make sure that they have physical and electronic specifications to meet all the requirements for ADA and things like that, and then again with the parent portal. So again, thinking about what makes a high quality instructional material. So the State Board of Education has a website called the Instructional Materials Review and Approval, or IMRA is what I call it. And so I just wanted to share like a picture. You may be familiar with it, maybe not, but the picture on the left is what the actual website looks like. And so you could go there and take a look at all, I call it a little bit of consumer reporting. If you ever like in Amazon, you could click like, what did the other people say? Well, this, if we click it's like the first blue box, dark blue box on the left. It goes to the actual rubrics. And so the picture on the right-hand side shows you kind of the makeup of it. So it would give a listing of all of the different resources that are on the approved list from the State Board of Education. And then each of the columns are all the different elements of that particular IMRA rubric. And you can see there's percentages. They all don't have 100% for all the different elements, even though they may have been approved by the State Board of Education. So our review process is the next part. So we have this bit of a timeline, and it got really compacted this spring. But between November to February is when the State Board of Education was going through some different approval processes to determine what type of math materials were going to be put on the approved list, because they have to make that decision. And so I was watching closely through all the State Board of Education meetings and waiting for more options to be put on the list to narrow it down for us. You notice something called CRIM probably throughout the snake of the timeline, and that stands for the committee. I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm going to go back and look at my little note really quick. Committee for Review of Instructional Materials. And so we had several meetings throughout the spring. We also had a day for educator review, a stakeholder review, which is our community review time. And then we had some vendor presentations as well. And that kind of leads us to the little locator circle, or the gray circle at the bottom, where we are tonight. So just thinking about the pre-screening, the work that I did previously. So we were looking for, it's just one of the things that were really important to all of our teachers, is that, yes, we want to see 100% alignment of TEKS. We also want to say like how we've interpreted our standards. Yes, we see it on the IMRA rubric that they have been 100% alignment, but we also wanted to look at our own pieces and say, have we agreed. How about that? And then we also wanted to make sure that we have Spanish resources for our Kinder through 6 dual language program, and that each of the resources integrate the research-based instructional strategies. So the Committee for Review of Instructional Materials, or otherwise known as CRIM, all of the folks that were on the committee were nominated by their principals. And so the principals gave me a nice list of teachers that were really committed into the work, that they have been really diving into the different things during their collaborative team times, as well as just leaders within their own campus. And so I got to narrow it down. It was hard to do in some campuses. And so I just wanted to share with within the committee, we had teachers that were general education teachers, special education teachers, dual language teachers, as well as if we think about our secondary campuses, intermediate, middle, and high school, we had on-level teachers as well as advanced course teachers in the mix. So our committee was basically about 34 actual teachers, and then also our 16 instructional coaches from kinder through 8th grade were also a part of the committee as well. And they kind of served more as a support person for the different grade level groups. So on April the 6th, we had a district PD day. And so all of our teachers had an opportunity for half of that PD day to dive into the digital versions of all the resources that I shared with them. And so one of the things that the CRIM, our bigger committee, were able to help to determine was like, what did we want to put on that rubric or feedback form for the teachers to kind of give us feedback to kind of narrow down our selections. So again, the importance of the alignment to our standards. They wanted to look for the balance between the conceptual understanding and procedural fluency. And so conceptual understanding is like the why does math work? And then the procedural pieces are like, how are we actually do the computations, the balance between those two. The multiple ways to represent and solve problems, sufficient supports for differentiation. They like to see a suite of assessment and data tools to help support them in the work that they're doing with their collaborative teams. And they wanted to think about like what type for me as a teacher, what kind of high quality support for me as I dive into teaching my students, but then also ease of use. Is it cumbersome to use? Because if it's cumbersome to use, they're less likely to use it. So during that review, I was able to narrow down the different vendors that we were going to listen to for presentations. And so our teacher committee rubric, we were able to kind of narrow it down to connect the math vision statement for CSISD, the work that we're doing to support our collaborative teams, and align it to the IMRA rubric from the State Board of Education. And so what they did, they helped me work through this. And so this was what was on our own rubric. So when the teachers, our committee, our CRIM, met with the different vendors, I wanted it not to be a popularity contest. I wanted them to say, what is the evidence to show why one particular resource looks better than the other in that process? And so we had broken up into two parts. We had learning quality, and you notice there are three things that was stars. Those had a heavier weight than other things. And you notice, again, probably there's lots of connection back to those research-based instructional strategies. And then the last piece is the low floor, high ceiling task. We wanted to make sure that we had tasks in our resources that could provide different opportunities. Like we could provide one task and have different levels of students all be able to access that task to be able to work towards that. The second part of that rubric that the team worked on or evaluated is the implementation quality. So you can see a lot of connection really to the work from their collaborative team. So again, how do I fulfill the mission for CSISD, or excuse me, the vision, and then also what type of materials are going to support us for our implementation. So they're looking for supports for formative assessment and the data use, differentiation, whether it's intervention or extension. They really would like to see exemplars of student work as well as teacher guidance. Like I may have changed a grade level, or I might be new to mathematics, or I haven't gone through college to be a certified math teacher. I've maybe gone through an alternate programming and I learned about teaching, but I haven't learned that 3rd grade math or 7th grade math, that sort of thing. So what kind of guidance can that instructional material provide for me? Also, like what's the quality of the assessments? Are there assessment banks and the usability of those? Again, the ease of implementation or the prep burden. They wanted a digital and print access to both types of ways to get the materials for the teachers as well as students. What type of family supports will there be? English and Spanish. We know that we have other languages that are important, and some of the resources also had additional pieces, but that was our baseline, our bottom line. And then also classroom language development and dual language for K through 6. Like, are any of the materials, do they have the language support through mathematics of like cognates, false cognates, and things like that for mathematics? And so going back to this timeline, oops, I let the cat out of the bag. Oh gosh. I'll get there. I apologize. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so on the 28th, the vendor presentations happened, and we heard from 3 vendors for each group. For elementary, we included 5th grade because that's a part of the 5th elementary standards. And so we had 3 resources or vendors that we listened to. We listened to the Bluebonnet Materials vendor. We listened to Savis and Vision. And then we also listened to Accelerates Learning with STEM Scopes Math. For secondary, what we looked for, and that would be grades 6 through pre-cal, we listened to their Bluebonnet provider, as well as Savis and Vision, and then we did McGraw-Hill. McGraw-Hill only has resources from 6th grade through high school, so the elementary didn't have an opportunity to listen to them. So through that process, the teachers worked through that rubric after listening to all the presentations, and I went to each of the grade level groups, and so I looked at their information, and they had to come up with a pros and cons list of which ones, what evidence showed which one had the strongest connections to what we're looking for. And at that point, they shared with me what they would want to recommend to the board. And so as going through all the different table groups, every one of the table groups except one selected one particular vendor. Pre-calculus only had one vendor. It's McGraw-Hill. So, but they listened to it. They still did their evidence. But I shared with the teachers on the CRIM is that it's important that we had the same vendor for kinder through 4th grade at the minimum, because we wouldn't want a different vendor for each of the grade levels. If we could have the same vendor for 5th and 6th grade, that would be fantastic because they work in the same building. And then if we had the same vendor for 5 through 8, that would be even more fantastic. And then I told them, I said, in high school, since the courses are not necessarily, there is a sequence between all of them, but like if they had different vendors, that would be okay with some of their high school courses. And so like going through all of them, I was and they didn't like coordinate with anyone from table to table, but they shared their selections. And so our recommendations were this. So kinder through 4th grade, 5th through 6th grade, 7th through 8th grade, Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, all selected as Savis and Vision Plus Texas Mathematics as their #1 recommendation to be able to bring to you tonight. And then pre-calculus, their only selection, it was the only choice that they had really, was McGraw-Hill Texas Math. And so that helps us with our cost savings as well. So what we are requesting to purchase, and again, there's no action tonight, that would be more of the special meeting on June 10th, is that we have 2 years of access to the digital platform for teachers and students. 2 years of student consumable workbooks for K through 4 as well as 5 through 8, and that will help us with our printing costs as well. A class set of hard textbooks for Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calculus. And then also all the teachers to have a printed edition in conjunction with their digital piece. And so some of you may be wondering why 2 years? So I mentioned earlier that at this point, our catalyst of standards changing hasn't happened yet, but we are in need of a resource. So in November of 2026, the ad hoc committee for the State Board of Education will come back and give a final report to the State Board of Education to determine like what happens next with our standards. But we need to have a resource in between that can support our teachers in the work that they're doing with our students. So that leads us to next steps. And so on June 10th, we'll be bringing to you guys the request for approval for our materials. So that leads me to the end. If you have any questions.
Do you always see that much agreement with all the different grade levels, or is that kind of
I
surprising?
honestly was shocked.
Okay, so it's kind of neat to see then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
I went back and I looked through. I recalculated today because I just wanted to make sure. So the committee groups, they had Savis as their #1 recommendation, except one particular grade level in elementary. I went back and looked at our April 6th data from all the teachers that were able to give feedback, and that was about 72% of our teacher group across the district. And as I went through, it was very similar. High school and middle school was a little bit different from the actual teacher groups for the committees, but Savis was their #2. And so out of the ones that they were looking through, so but I was not expecting that. But it helps, like in working with all the teachers and delivering PD and supporting them in that way. It does help with them having the baton passes between grade levels and then also grade levels with the campuses.
This says Savas and Vision plus Texas Mathematics, but is it the Texas state-owned? No, I just wanna make- you're right. It's
Thank you
a-
for asking.
Yes.
No, it is not. You know, it is not Bluebonnets. It does not have the Bluebonnet stamp on it, but it did go through the same process as the Bluebonnet materials. I will say this. For our dual language, the Spanish version has not been on the approved yet list, the approved State Board of Education list yet. But what Savas is doing for us is they will be able, they'll basically gift us a Spanish for every English that we purchase. And that would cover us during this 2-year gap. But every arrow is pointing to that the Spanish version for K6 will be on the approved list starting next year. Once they go through that final process, their English and Spanish versions of their reading product has already been approved, and so it truly is just the translation portion of that. And so we are expecting that it to go through.
So to follow, it's not the Bluebonnet, but it is State Board of Education approved,
Yes.
which means from the money
Yes.
piece,
Yes.
the $40 per
Yeah.
student.
So let me go
is-
back to this slide. Sorry for the. So that second star on the left-hand side where it says we have $40 per student to use with a state board approved material. The Savas and the McGraw-Hill are both on that approved list.
And then sorry, I'm keeping at the
That's okay.
discussion. So my next thought is then, how close does that get to paying for this?
Oh, it
Does the $40 per student
Yes.
clearly will pay
Yes,
for it?
yes.
That's
We
even-
actually started getting that money a year ago, I believe, and that money rolls over for year to year. And so we had a pot of savings, honestly, this point. And so, in talking with Dr. Harkrider, we didn't want to go more than 2 years at this point, just because not knowing what's going to happen with that final report with the State Board of Education and the ad hoc committee. And so, but we needed a resource to support our teachers and our students now.
I'm just a little surprised. Your mission statement only has English. It doesn't have any numbers in it whatsoever. I don't know if Ms. Parks and Mr. Hogan have pointed that out to you or not.
Well, I can
I'm sure we can probably add some in there. All
I
right.
can just appreciate that this process was done with the teachers that are going to be impacted that are in our classrooms. They're getting to look at this, they're getting to help make that decision. So, I mean, for us here who are not all experts in that particular field, that's what we need to hear. So, thank you for walking us through that.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, our last workshop session is going to be the discussion of the 26-27 general fund budget. Ms. Wilson.
Good evening, Ms. Iggy, Dr. Harkrider, Board of Trustees. We're going to discuss a little bit about the budget. Of course, we've seen this before. We're going to talk about the current budget, where we are right now. We're going to look at those enrollment trends real quick. I know you've seen them before. We're going to look at the estimated 26-27 budget, along with some of the assumptions that were utilized when we built it. Of course, one topic that's always out there is fund balance, so we'll look at that one more time and then talk about the compensation plan. Okay, so the current budget, this is kind of what it kind of looks like. We budgeted $157 million. Right now, we've collected year-to-date $154 million. 0.5 if you want to be technical. If you look there at the minimum foundation state funding, it looks like we're over budget about $3 million, 3.6 that we've over collected. We've actually, I kind of brought that out before. We get another $3 million payment in the month of May, so it looks like about 6.6. However, that's an overpayment, and every bit of that's going to go back to the state. So what you're looking at on the budget is actually what we're going to receive. So don't get kind of off on what you're seeing on the far right-hand side. Everything else is trending really well. Here are our expenditures for the year. You can kind of look, we budgeted $156.3 million. We've expensed to date 79.63% total of our budget. And we have 31 million left to spend. I like to look at it like this because of the fact that you break it out with that, like I said several times, that $130 million budget number there is 83.4% of our budget. So you really kind of want to take a look at that one and monitor that one. However, like I'll say it before, I'll say it again, we have a huge payment that comes out of that in the summer that gets rebooked to these financials, and that is our TIA payment, Teacher Incentive Allotment Money. Because it was earned in this school year, we have to book it out of this school year. So even though we don't pay that until August, it will come against these numbers. And so that number does not reflect that. When you look at our estimates, so you're looking at so our estimate actual revenue looks like it's going to come in about 158 million, and our expenditures are going to fall around 152 million. The estimated fund change could be as high as 5.8. I think that's the highest we'll see, but we could see a higher number. I mean, not a higher number, but a little bit around that number. I want you to point out the one-time increase to fund balance is 4.8 million. That is made up of two different things. That's made up of that additional revenue received back for reevaluating taxes back in 23-24, and we got over a $2.4 million payment there that's in that number, as well as the Hell claim. When you look at the Hell claim, please keep in mind that those dollars are actually committed in our fund balance. So when we look at fund balance a little bit later, I can show you kind of where they're sitting, ready to make those roof repairs. There are a lot of things that can affect our financial statements, and these are just a few things that you can see. I had to recently turn in a report to TEA, and we had to turn in square footage of buildings and everything else, and we have over $2.6 million square feet that we clean, we keep up to date, we heat, we cool, over 503 acres of land that we water. And so when you take those things into account, if we have a gas leak, if we have a water leak, if we have anything like that, those are going to affect our numbers. Another thing that when you're looking at this, a charge repayment, we booked that for $750,000 in a charge repayment. That's sitting out there, and that's not in that number that you see there. If we have to make that payment, you're going to see a decrease there. We're going to start the roof projects a little bit early. That was in the budget amendment. If that's $500,000, that's going to affect that number, and we're not going to see as much revenue. If the teacher incentive allotment comes in a little higher, that'll affect that number. The other things that you don't see, but they're bookings at the end of the year, is something called a payroll accrual. And so what happens if we give a raise tonight, we're going to have to take 2 months of our teacher salaries, and we're going to have to pay them out of the higher rate and charge it back. And so you've got to kind of keep those things in mind as well. And the other things that you'll have to look at is like your subitas and your capital leases. Those are just GASB bookings that we do in the month of June when we close out our books. I'm working with the accounting department to see if they can get those to us earlier, so we'll have a clear understanding what that is in the month of June. But those are major journal entries they do just to close out the books each year. And it's basically, they call it a right to use a subscription. And so they're making us capitalize just a subscription we would pay on a yearly basis. Another thing is our leases are like our copier leases. They're actual leases. However, because we hold them for 5 years, they want us to put them on our books and capitalize those. And so that's what you're kind of seeing, those big hits to capital outlay. That's not that we're spending capital outlay out of the general fund. Those are those big booking entries that come at the end of the school year. And so those are some of the things that can affect the numbers as well right there at the end.
Quick question on that one. I just want to clarify, is the 4.8 million part of the 5.8?
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
right, just to be
Yes,
clear,
ma'am.
right, yes.
Yes.
So
But I just kind of want us to keep
we're having to
yes.
set aside for next year.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so the enrollment trends, we've kind of looked at this before. I did put the estimated in there. So we had 13,892 at snapshot. I estimate about 13,686 at snapshot this year. That's a little over a decrease of 200. That's a lot of that is attributed just from those bigger class sizes graduating and some younger, smaller class sizes coming in. I am estimating that our kinder will be a little higher than it is this current year because I'm estimating that we'll kind of see a little bit of those 1263 right there, that 1,263 birth rates. When you look at historical and moving forward numbers, you've just got to keep in mind when you see it kind of start tearing off, we're hitting some of these 1,163, 1,179. We've got some lower birth rates coming up. So you can kind of see where they might move a little faster than we're kind of looking at right now. Estimated budget and adjustments. Of course, we've talked about the board budget priorities multiple times. Those are things that you guys have established over this school year. And then last month, we talked about the Budget Advisory Committee. And I'm really proud of the work that you all have done, as well as the Budget Advisory has done, to come up with the committee recommendations. And even though we don't have to make as hard of decisions of some of the things that we've seen, we're ready to make those decisions. We're at a good place, and we're staying very mindful of where we are in the process. And so I feel like we've done the work. We've done the work through building staffing models. We've done the work through right now with the new software, doing the position control, doing it one-to-one positions so that we know every position in the district. We've done all of the hard work, I feel, and now that anything, like if the enrollment continues to decline or things like that, we're ready to make those decisions. We've done the work. We know our data, and we know what we're looking at. Some of the other things they talked about, of course, is just the staffing reductions. In a little bit, I'll show you kind of what that means, but we are making those decisions. Every time a position is open, we're taking a hard look at that to make sure that's not something that we can reduce. A little bit later, I'm going to show you about the substitutes and bus numbers and just show you a little bit where we're off and the fill rates that we're currently experiencing. And then, of course, you've heard the other things as well. We have looked at class sizes for middle schools, high schools, intermediates, and elementary class sizes. We have built a allocated budget per student for all of our campuses. We've done the zero-based budget for our departments, and we're kind of pretty much lean and mean right now. And then we evaluate the other positions. I was asked last month to kind of give you some detail on what those cuts look like. None of these are based on raising the class sizes. It's where we've lost enrollment. We've reduced the teachers to the students that we're serving. And so you can kind of look through that data. You'll have this information, but so I don't want to really read through it, but you have it here on what it means. The one thing I do want to point out, because Forest Ridge and Greens Prairie, we do have additional teachers going there. At any place in our district, when we look at growth, those are our two little elementary schools that seem to grow a little bit more than the others. We're keeping a watch on that through registration. However, we've covered their needs as of right now, and we feel like we're in a good place, but it's not something that we're not going to be paying attention to. Oakwood, this is our intermediate adjustments that we have. You'll see Cypress Grove Intermediate, we're holding there. We could have reduced some of the staff there, but we didn't feel that was great for the makeup of the classrooms when you start looking at how many special education kids are with the regular ed kids and things like that. So we felt like we needed to keep the teachers where they were, and so we held at that campus. And then you can see the rest for Pecan Trail. They're a little bit higher in enrollment coming into this next year. Secondary staffing, very little is done there. We've been doing this over the last few years. You can just see basically a reduction of ELA at Welborn and College Station High School, a math teacher, and then you can kind of see a reduction of an intern position at College View High School. And then we have the additions, of course, with opening the Career Center this next school year. When you look at revenue, if you have some questions about that, I've taken into consideration that we will have those students next year. And so where we would have a huge cut because of the loss of the 200 students, some of that is offset by often offering those additional classes for those kids. Special education reductions. I know you heard from Ms. Grande last budget board meeting, and she talked about the special education coaches being repurposed to the classrooms, and then reducing those art facilitators. And because I have already touched on the district positions, and then looking at that.
Can I ask one, just Dr. Harkrider, on that the reductions, we're handling those through attrition
Yes, sir.
and reassignment, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. The non-payroll adjustments, these are increases in the total budget, but our total non-payroll budget only increased overall by about $83,000, okay? So these are some huge increases, but we've offset them in other places. So there's about 70,000 increase in custodial budget. That's really just for the additional classrooms that we're having to clean, as well as that career center. Another thing that's in that number that we're wanting to do is bring in something that we've been paying out of the bond program that we feel like really needs to be attributed to the general fund is redoing our floors, our gym floors over the summer. So we've moved that money into the general fund. So you can see it reflected there. 40,000, that's where we're looking at those athletic trainers. And so we're going to kind of do some contracted services to try to get through and make sure that we're taking care of all of their needs. There's about 37,900 more for fine arts. I felt like I was a little too tight on the allocation for band, and so I increased the per student for band going into this school year. In addition, we have some needs for contracted services for choir to make sure that they're taken care of, and those numbers are reflected in these as well. 157,000, most of that is probably a non-funded mandate where they're requiring us to bring more security for events when we have larger crowds. So that's a portion of that is covered there. The other portion of that is really when you look at just our security officers and the raises they'll receive, we have to make sure that's covered within our budget. And so that's the other piece of that number. When you look and compare security from one year over another, that's one of the savings that you're seeing reflected in fund balance this year is because we had a grant that we could move some of those costs over, spend that grant down, and then take those funds, and then you're seeing that go back to fund balance. But with this, next year, we don't have that grant at this time, and so we're going to assume all of those costs within the next fund cycle. There's $230,000 increase in human resources. That's reflected in a new software program for TIA so that we can make sure that we're tracking appropriately and returning in correct information to TEA. So we're excited about that. And the other is the RISE program. So we're nearly doubling our RISE program going into the next school year. You're going to see some cost here, but you'll see some savings on the other side as well. 41,000, that's just an estimated increase in the budget that we pay Brazos County for the appraisal district. And then 160,000, we're going to pretty well come in this year flat on utilities. We're going to be right there. Might be 50,000 short, might be around 50,000 under, but we're kind of monitoring it. We're closer than I like to be. But we're going to have to increase just for those additional spaces and pay for the utilities for the Career Center. So where did we come up with some savings? There was, when I received the budgets, some of the things that we used to do here in the school district is each department would budget for legal services. And then they would budget for the worst case in their legal services. And so when that happens, and you say, oh, we have this much turned into fund balance that we didn't spend. A lot of that is because if you have 250 over here, 250 over here, and 250 over here, but we spent 300,000 total, then we're kind of over budgeted. So what I did this last year going into this year is gathered up all of that, and we have one legal account. Another thing we have is one insurance account. We don't have insurance in every department. We have one account. And then we try to keep other things down. Like, for example, one of the budgets that were submitted with one of the departments was submitted at $1.7 million, up $1 million from the previous year. But in the budget, when I started looking at it, they budgeted for worst case in every possible way. So what we kind of do with those contingencies is hold back some money for contingencies in case we have something come up. We have money to be able to cover those expenses versus budget it in multiple places. With all of that going on, we are really tightening up our budgets, if that makes sense. So where we would say, oh, we're going to roll this much into fund balance or this, we're trying to make sure that we've got a good number and we're tightening it as much as we possibly can. Yes, we still have contingency set aside. We have contingency set aside unless there's like a software program that comes up in the middle of the year that we need to fund. our teacher incentive, not teacher incentive, attendance incentive program that we do. I set money aside in contingency. So when those campuses get the award, I have money to give back to those campuses. So like when you see, for example, $70,000 in campus allocations, that was really a $40,000 decrease, but 30,000 of that is really just that attendance incentive money that we're able to give back to campuses. So we have that money set aside for them. We went with a new software conversion this year. So you have upfront costs the first year you go live with one, and then you reduce those costs. And those are some of the savings that you see here. And then because we were tightening up so much this current school year, I was able to release some contingencies because I feel comfortable that we're going to cover everything. And so I was able to release about $330,000 in contingencies. And then there's some other small programs that we're kind of tightening up that make up about 103. So these are some of the decreases that make up to kind of offset those increases. Again, total non-payroll cost increase is about a little over 80,000. All of the budgets are in for non-payroll. They're actually in our new MUNA system and ready to go. We're ready to start doing our payroll piece. I just wanted to bring this up to you because you might have some questions. Of course, we won't adopt our tax rate next month when we adopt our budget. We'll adopt our tax rate in August. But I wanted you to have an idea of where things are looking. So our current tax rate is 69.63. Our estimated increase for preliminary value right now is a 6% increase, okay? Of that 6% increase, 8.6 billion is in ARB reviews. That's more than half of our total taxable value. And so you can kind of see why I would be a little conservative. But if you look at the next one, the numbers that we currently have built in the budget is with a 3.9% increase in value. If we see a 3.9% increase in value, you can kind of see the tax rate. And guess what, guys? I got those flipped. The 6%, you see, if we get a 6% increase, we see the 67.59. If we get a 3.9, our tax rate will only go down to 68.78, if that makes sense. Now, that's just your compressed tax rate that your MCR is your maximum compressed tax rate that's set by TEA, and then of course the golden pennies that we have approved. Now, you might think we have no more money, and I know you get tired of the cup slide, but basically we'll adopt a budget based on a 3.9. We don't get our certified values until after our budget is adopted. We don't get those until July. Once we get our certified values, that's when I turn it into TEA for them to set our tax rate. So we're going to post in the budget the more conservative one. So we're going to post in the paper that we're looking at the 3.9% increase versus the 6%. As long as we post the higher rate, then if it's lower, we're okay. We don't have to repost. Does that make sense? Okay. But it doesn't mean we get more money if we get a 6% increase in value versus a 3.9. It does benefit us on the debt service side because we don't have recapture there, or we don't have to offset that with state revenue.
You would post the 6%.
I will post the 3.9 estimated
Okay.
for the budget because it's not a certified number yet.
Okay.
And just to note, both of those are tax rates that go down for,
Yes.
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 Just, yeah.
Yes. And we won't be going up on our debt side either. Odds are we'll be decreasing a little bit there. So when you look at current revenue here, you have, when you look at our current budget, we have a change in fund balance of 1.2 million. When you roll everything forward, we have a deficit budget of 2.5. Do I feel if we have 1% of our payroll remaining, could we cover that? Yes, we could cover about 2 million. Does that make sense? So when that's another thing that is a little bit different, okay? So because, for example, this year we're short on sub money, we're under budget on sub money, and we're under budget on extra duty pay. We're over budget on health insurance. Those are things that fluctuate based on the year. And so even though you have to plan for those things, You won't know those until you get into the year. You also won't know about unfilled positions. And so you kind of got to estimate that you're going to cover 100% of your subs. You want to estimate that you cover 100% of your extra duty pay. You want to estimate that you cover 100% of your health insurance. So if you estimate that and you're 1% off, that makes a huge number when you're talking $130 million. Does that make sense? And so that's just what I want to point out. 1% of 26 million, and that's our non-payroll cost. I mean, that's still a big number, but that's extremely tight. If that makes sense? Because you're talking utilities. Mr. Simon could have a gas leak. It could cost me that 1%. Putting the numbers together, so this is kind of what you look at here. With those decreases in those positions just because of the loss in enrollment, you see that 622,000, and that's the net of all of the positions. So we're looking at about $155 million budget without taking into account any raises. And so you get to the 152 for the estimated revenue, so that's where I got the 2.5. Budget, we're going to look at all of these things going forward. We're going to continue to look at the compensation expectations. We'll continue to look at the staff ratios. I know it's big on your minds about the fund balance. We're going to continue to look at equity between inefficiencies in our departments. We hope we don't have to go to class size, but that could be something that we could look forward, and those are decisions we'll have to make in the future. And then we're going to look at every way possible that we can kind of utilize anything that TEA is throwing out to generate revenue. And those are even meetings that they're having across the state, just of different programs that they're having. How could we utilize their programs to help us generate revenue? Fund balance, this is something that we talk about all the time. We need 3 months operating expenditures. Of course, that just means you have a baseline fund balance. Please don't make sure you don't think that's a healthy fund balance. That is the fund balance you need, just because we have to have cash to operate. However, we have an unassigned fund balance of 40 million. I have committed things that I know that we need to commit, including the roof repairs and other things. So I feel extremely comfortable with the 40 million. And then please remember, we're going to add to that number this school year when we close the budget. So those are things you want to keep in mind.
We're going to add 1.2, right? We're going to add 1.2.
We're going to add more than that because we have those one-time costs. If you think about it, like when you go back to that, the 1.2 is a budget. But when we close out the year, it's going to be higher than that because the one-time cost alone that we're going to put into fund balance is over 4.8, depending on
I thought that was
how much we pay for SHARs or how much we pay for roof projects.
I thought a lot that was dedicated. That's not going to be the unassigned. The unassigned.
But that's already committed. I committed it right when we put the revenue into the budget. Does that make sense? So when that number is already reflected, do you see right there, 2025, it went from 3.9 to 16 million. I committed our fiscal year change, and I committed our fiscal year change. I committed the roof project, and I committed anything that we knew that was coming up. So when you look at the unassigned, that is a solid number. That's a number that you can look at. In addition, you'll have that over probably close to 5 million roll into that number and increase it this year. Those are the one-time costs for the reevaluation 2 years ago that we got $2.4 million on. We got money for our roof projects. That'll add to the unassigned column. It's already committed. So I safeguarded. That's what I was just trying to make sure that we didn't spend something. Does that make sense? I was just trying to make sure we set that money aside because we were going to have to utilize that money for roof projects, and it couldn't be day-to-day operations. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you look at this, you can kind of look at laying out a 3-month budget. If you look at the plan, the first plan I brought last month is $39.95 is what the required fund balance would be. And then 75 days cash on hand. So when you look at first ratings and things like that, they do a lot of recommendations on cash on hand. That's just because we have to have money available to make budgets and make payrolls and things like that till we get reimbursed for Fed funds and other other revenue that we haven't received at the beginning of the school year. Then if you do the 2% and the 3% and have a $4.8 million deficit, when you look at a 3 months of that new expenditure budget, it's 39 million, still underneath the current unassigned fund balance. Some of the proposed compensation plans, of course, I always want to bring to mind what we look like when we compare to our peer district and even our close districts that are close by us, like Bryan ISD. So here is just a relook at that I brought last month. Another thing is just the substitute pay rate. What we would recommend, if you would look at short term and possibly increasing that $15 for our short term pay for our subs, that would be for your non-degree, degreed, and degree certified. That would get us in line with Bryan. And then make sure that we're kind of closing the gap there. We feel like we are pretty good on the long-term subs. Just wanted to bring this to you as well, because you remember we have like 22 unfilled transportation positions, and so you can kind of see how we rank most comparably to Bryan ISD because they're close to us for those positions. So this is what I brought to you last month. There was just one tweak in it when I took out 1 to 2 for House bill additional pay and left the 4 to 5. I know there's been some questions about that. What does that mean? If you look at the information that I submitted to you guys, you can look at the different pay plans and you can look there where we walk from 4 to 5. I had to give those teachers at least a $5,000 increase. We only gave them $2,500 last year, so I have to make them whole this year. So when they walk into that, we have to make sure that they have at least $2,500. And so that's because the different pay plans, if we adopt a pay plan for a teacher with a $650 raise, I've got to make up the difference, and that's the House Bill 3 adjustments there. Okay, the reason why it goes down is if you get a higher raise, then you're making up a less to make that whole. This is the other one that I was asked to kind of pull some information. What if we gave a 3% of midpoint for our administrators and then 3% for our teachers? That would be a $1,900 raise for our teachers, and then those were the numbers you would be looking at. So what questions do you have for Dr. Harkrider or myself?
The salary piece is also an action item on the compensation, so we can discuss now, but we can have a longer discussion later on if you'd like to. We can answer any questions now, give you some time to think.
Can you go back to the one that kind of summarizes what our fund balance will look like after, with the different options?
Okay, and then on these different options, I don't have the 3%, but I do have the 1 and the 2 and the 2 and the 3%. And if you remember, it's 2.5 million plus the costs, and that last one I think was 3.8.
I just want to be sure that I'm understanding this slide well. I think I do, but you're showing us with the 1 and 2% and the 2 and 3%, where we would be with our fund balance with that deficit budget, and you're saying to us that it is still, what we need is still under what we would have. Does that make,
What we need is under what we have, currently have. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to be sure.
And then just the changes there is because our policy reads 3 months of expenditure budget, basically. And so as our expenditure budget increases, so will our requirement for 3 months. But in both cases, we're okay there.
The number we need is 37.9, correct? That's the
For-
minimum.
for-
That's the 3 month.
41 million right there. 41,551. We don't want to go lower than fund balance of 41,951.
And you're saying at the 3 month operating fund balance, we'd be at 39,095?
Yes. So it's under what we're required to have. Does that make sense?
Yes, but how does that work?
So it's not what you, it is not a good position to be in.
No, okay.
Okay,
I'm tongue-tying. Okay, so we have unassigned and assigned, which is in our board policy, 41,551. Okay, they said you want 3 months of fund balance, and so that would be 41,551 is how much fund balance we have. We're only required to have 39,095 if you do the first one, 39,342 if you do the second one. Does that make better sense? Because
So
it's
39 is not what we would
That was
have.
correct.
no,
It's what we
Yeah,
would need
I
to
it's
said
what
have.
we
the right
need to
way.
have.
Yeah.
So we're under the mark. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Great. I was like, well, we probably should talk about that. All right. Thank you.
And was it the same? I know you don't have it up there. Was it the same for the 3%?
The 3% is a little higher. So if you want to go back to these numbers, you can kind of see the difference here. And so it goes from 2.3 to 3.1. We're still under, but we're just a little closer. Okay.
Can you mentioned that, the state started talking, right? They've been having some committee hearing meetings, interim committee. Have you heard any positives about extra additional funding coming out in the next legislative session?
Yeah, I can speak to a TASA legislative committee I'm on. We had a meeting yesterday, and the word right now out of Austin is they expect this to be very little discussion at all on K through 12 education this session, that the legislators do not have an appetite to discuss anything with us, including changing STAR, additional funding. They're not going to touch the basic allotment. And so the issue now is TRS is going to be becoming potentially a larger issue than TASA had expected. And they said we could potentially look at having us to contribute more to TRS than we currently are, which is more money out of our pockets. So it's not setting up with all the chatter behind the scenes well at all. It'd be more of a defensive session for public ed versus an offensive session, and I think that will probably be a common trend for the next several years. We don't really have anything to negotiate with or against since vouchers are in play now, so it puts us in a bad position.
Yeah, I think, that's the news I've heard too. And to me, that's one of the things that makes me so wary about even getting close to the amount of money that we have, that we need for our fund balance. Because the horizon does not look good at all in terms of any additional money from the state. And then we pair that with the enrollment predictions that we have, and it looks kind of grim. I mean, now we're talking potentially 200 less students next year, which, you've accounted for that in there, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. But as that progresses to the next year, potentially, it becomes a point where we can, and we have, we can adjust the staffing ratios in the classroom to match those enrollment numbers going down, but we still have a whole slew of fixed costs between our facilities, but also just between, admin at campuses, managing campuses. So it's a similar debate every year, whether, we've got to support the teachers we have, but, we have to watch and plan for our financial stability moving forward. And some years are worse than others, and this one does not look very promising. So I am very wary of going, me personally, I'm looking at the middle. The B option is the most I would feel comfortable doing, just because of so many unknowns moving forward. So that's where I am.
All right. Well, are
Well,
there
and
any
we
other
are going to
questions?
have an action item on this. We can have more
Yes.
discussion before that for 100%. But I think for right now, unless we have just a real specific question, would it be all right to table that until we get to our next meeting at that action item? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you,
Wilson.
guys.
And that is going to bring us to item E, adjourn. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the CSISD Board of Trustees to order. Declaration of a quorum. We have 7 members present. Welcome to this meeting of College Station Independent School District Board of Trustees. We were elected at large to represent the interests of our community and our state in educating our students. Our mission for our students in this district is success each life, each day, each hour. We adhere to all pertinent laws, policies, and procedures in posting agendas and conducting our meetings. The detailed agenda information was made available to us at least 3 business days in advance, and we have all come to this meeting informed and prepared. We have just completed a workshop session where we heard reports and discussed much of the information needed to make decisions in either this meeting or in upcoming meetings. This is a meeting of the 7 trustees in a public setting rather than a public meeting. As such, public comment is included on the agenda at a specific time and requires us to listen rather than take action so as to abide by the Open Meetings Act. We are pleased that you have taken time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school district, and we thank you for your interest in and support of our students. And that is going to move us to our recognitions. We have some students here from Oakwood and from A&M Consolidated Middle School.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Board of Trustees, Dr. Harkrider, thank you for letting us come. It's May, and so you know what that means. It's Holic Street time. And we're last on the academic calendar, but we know we're first in your heart, and so you guys always look forward to us coming, and we appreciate it. And so on behalf of Mr. Grundy and I, thank y'all for having us tonight. My name is Omar Espitia. I am the proud principal of A&M Consolidated Middle School, otherwise known as Bobcat Country, and I have brought 2 wonderful Bobcats all the way from the country to talk to you, Ms. Kiambry Collins and Ms. Zoe Benito, and I'll turn it over to them.
One thing I like about AMCMS is that the teachers don't push you like to do your work. Like if you like if you're like tired or something, like Miss Roper, she has like blankets and stuff in her classroom. So I like to go to sleep in her class. And and like it's not that I don't do my work. I do my work. It's just like I like peace sometimes and she gives me that.
Good recovery, good recovery.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm in 8th grade. One thing I really like about AMCMS is all the different clubs and organizations like NJHS and all the soccer clubs and sports and track and volleyball.
Zoe Cambria, it's good to see you guys again. I am very fortunate to have been at Oakwood Intermediate for the past 11 years and have been the principal of Oakwood for the past 4 years. And I'm very, very proud to introduce 2 students in our school, just really cool kids, Ellison Childs and Henry Snyder, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Allison Childs. I'm in the 5th grade dual language student at Oakwood Intermediate School, where my classes are in English and Spanish. I'm also a member of the Student Council and Orchestra program, where I play the viola. Some fun facts about me is that I love sports: softball, basketball, volleyball, and track. I also enjoy building Legos and singing at church. The things that make Oakwood special are the great events we have, like Wildcat Fest and STEM Night. Also, I have amazing teachers and friends at Oakwood. Last, Mr. Grande is the best principal ever. He makes everyone feel special. He greets us every morning in the car rider line and even visits our classrooms just to say hi. I love being an Oakwood Wildcat. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Henry Snyder, and I'm a 5th grader at Oakwood Intermediate. I play right field for the Brazos Valley Bucks baseball team. I love Oakwood because of the great teachers and the students, and Oakwood will always be a special place in my heart, and I will always remember it. By the way, I did beat Mr. Grandy in Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader?
It's true, it was a math class.